Hey, Devin Booker. Remember him? Remember that guy? I remember when we used to talk about him as like one of the best SGs, if not the best shooting guard in the entire league. How long has it been since you've heard someone raise that point? It's all Anthony Edwards these days, and I wanna talk about what's next for Booker because it really has me intrigued. He's been the man. He's been on the main man on like a losing team, and then he's done the whole quote unquote super team thing with KD, Bill, and all them. But now he's back to being the man. Let's find out what's next for Devin Booker. So. Devin Booker. Amidst all this change in the NBA, the off season, the off season always brings craziness, and amongst that, it happened a lot in Phoenix. Phoenix was the talking point in a lot of those transactions and trades or whatever. Kevin Durant gone from Phoenix to Houston, cool. Bradley Beal, he needed that fresh new start. Another one, Clippers, cool. But the person that has not moved and has not moved in his entire career is Devin Booker. And it's very fascinating to see what's going to happen with him because I just don't know what to expect. But I kind of I want to watch him more. I want to appreciate his game more because there was a time. I'm going to touch on this. There was a time that you talked about him as the best shooting guard in the entire league. We just did. It was between him, Anthony Edwards. Who else was up there? Like Bradley Beal, like back in the Washington days, he was up there. Like you talked about him there. Obviously, they weren't going to take over Kobe Bryant, for ages or ever, obviously. But then that spot opened up and, once Kobe retired and all that stuff, there was a spot open. But now we don't really talk about it. So there was the early days, like this guy, he was the 13th pick 10 years ago in 2015. And from the get-go, I found this quite interesting. When I was looking up stats for Devin Booker, as I do, you always go through these things, even if you know and love the league as much as you do, as much as I do, you still forget things. But this man stepped into the NBA and basically averaged 30 points from the jump. He was the face of the franchise pretty much from the jump, those Phoenix Suns days, and he hasn't really looked back. He averaged 27 minutes a game in his rookie year, so he had the opportunity and he made the most of it. And he's just been like a pure scorer since he kind of stepped into the league. And the fun part about it has been the, expanding roles that he's played, more passing, more defense, the competitive edge. That has been something that is, I know, I will always think of Devin Booker and I will always think of the what if factor because Utah, my team, could have easily had him. They chose to take Trey Lyles instead. But his competitive edge, he's probably my favorite part about Booker. He's got that asshole in him, which I think you really need. You genuinely do. People talk about that with Luka, other players, but you need that edge. And that's what I've kind of known from Devin Booker. But as mentioned, early days, he was the face of the franchise. But then you go into, the records. How did the team do? All fine and well that you get drafted 13th overall. Great. Good for you. Actually, it's low for Devin Booker, but good for you. But what did the team do? Not much. The team did not do much in rookie season. Their record was 23-59. Obviously very average, bad. And it didn't go much better. It was quite amusing. They won one more game in Booker's second season. They went from 23-59 to 24-58. So, not a massive leap. But pretty much from there, they were just kind of like a losing team. It was the losing years in Phoenix. Yes, we got to see this really bright star in Devin Booker blossoming. Blossoming depends on who you ask. Because I will tell the final thing I'll say on records for now is they went 19-63 in 2018/2019, which is not very good. But he was this borderline star. He just was. And the talking point around him, though, the issue with him was that he was always seen as like the empty numbers guy. He was always seen as like that pure bucket getter. We knew he was a legit scorer, and he still is a legit scorer, but people wanted to see the wins. And that made complete sense to me. To get the respect and to get where you want to go as a player and as a fan in terms of watching your favorite player and watching these people, wins are what matters. And knowing Booker and his competitive edge, not personally, just knowing what you see from him, obviously wins are what matters. But he was scoring the rock. He was doing other things. He was making a name for himself, but he just couldn't get the team's wins. As a result of that, he was seen as like the empty numbers guy, a guy that puts up scores consistently on the scoreboard individually, but just doesn't get the wins. So it was an interesting conversation. Then you go to like the middle of the pack, the sort of like, I was about to refer to it as like the glory days for Booker, but I don't think they're there yet because the wins haven't surmounted. So they're not there. But in 2019/2020, they did start to turn it around. So Phoenix were kind of like, they were a bad team. Now, around this time, they become a pretty good team, a middle of the pack team. And since then, they've basically been that. There were some good years. Like Chris Paul came, Devin Booker obviously continued to do his thing, KD and all that. I'll talk about that soon. But they were a good to middle of the pack team for like however many years. They couldn't break that hump. They couldn't really find that playoff success. And that's what I wanted to see from Booker moving forward. But then you get the super team years, and that's when Kevin Durant arrived. Cool, that's great. I think Phoenix were kind of always that what if team from there. As soon as Kevin Durant arrived, you're like, hey, on paper, could they do it? Could they be that team? Could they be that championship level team that they look like on paper, but they could never put it together? You have Booker, KD, and Beal, and you're like, how's this going to work? Where's the point guard? The point guard chatter. Remember that? I mean, it still was a thing last year. It's like, what are they going to do about the point guard spot? Because the first year, I think it was, they just obviously needed someone to demand the rock and actually run plays and sort of be that pure point guard, even though Book and Beal, they can play it, but they're not pure point guards. And I think it was before, like the seasons before, Chris Paul would have been like perfect there. You would have thought. But they just didn't get to where they wanted to go. They were always that what-if team, and it never really happened for them. It literally never happened for them. And as a result, last year I barely really watched them because they kind of they were uninspiring to me. Like, just truth be told, I was just like, cool, I see the vision there. But if Phoenix was on the schedule, I wasn't exactly eager to click that League Pass button and jump on and watch and just sort of invest my time in watching that team. There was just something about them. But in saying that, I almost felt guilty. Guilty from the sense of not like watching. I mean, yeah, greatness is in KD and all three of them actually, but Kevin Durant especially. Like you do want to watch those guys as much as you can. But Booker was kind of the main guy that I was like, hey, like I feel like people used to really appreciate him. And I'm not sure they do as much anymore, anywhere near as much, if I'm being honest, because you just don't see people talking that much about him. Last season, he averaged 26 points per game. And it was almost like nobody ever spoke a word about that. It was almost like an irrelevant 26 points per game, which sounds stupid, and it is stupid. It's harsh to say it like that. But it's kind of just like you expect him to put up numbers. He does. But if the wins and the playoff success and all that stuff doesn't come from it, people don't really look at you that much. It's not like you're a young player, like a rising star now coming up, and you're like, hey, this is awesome. What could he become in the future? Like, is he going to make an all-star team this year? He's done all that. Like, he is an all-star. He will continue to be, I am sure. But I just want to appreciate him more. I want to actually lock in on him this season and see what he's all about now. Like, he's that mid-range sniper. He's that a competitive dude that just gets after and even annoys other people, like the opposition. And I love that. I kind of just want to watch him more. And I think the thing that really intrigues me is that he's done this full circle situation in Phoenix now. Like, he was the guy. He was the alpha on that young team. He was young as well. He was the alpha. He was like, okay, hey, you have to be the leader of this team and you have to lead from the front. You have to not at some stages do it all. Sure, you tried. It didn't really work. But then you got KD and Beal and all that, and you tried the whole stacking core players together, and that didn't work. And now you're back being the man. You are. Jalen, you're number one. Jalen Green's a number two. Dylan Brooks is still there. Wait, he got traded first year in Phoenix. That's interesting. Do you ever just pause on this at a moment? As an NBA fan, like, you might be fully across all the trades and signings, and I feel like I am. But if it goes if you go a certain amount of weeks, months, whatever it is, and people don't talk about like KD to Houston, or you don't read something about that, Dylan Brooks is a perfect example here. If you don't read about that certain thing, and then someone reminds you of like where Dylan Brooks is playing, you're like, what the hell? Like, you literally just don't remember it. There's too much that happens. But I literally was about to say Dylan Brooks is still there, but he has not played a Phoenix game, right? Don't think so. But they're kind of like the core. You've got Malawatch. You've got a few young pieces, but Devin Booker is basically the face again. I mean, he kind of always was in a way. Like, you're not going to think of KD being the face of Phoenix, like if you've been around for a while and you kind of understand their situation. But Book is back to being that. And I really want to see him thrive. I really want to see playoff success somehow. But I just don't know how they're going to do it. Like, unless Jalen Green shakes that playoff rust and becomes like maybe he competes with, not Dylan Brooks. Maybe he competes with Booker to be that number one option. I don't know. Maybe those two can just be awesome and they build something. Dylan Brooks stays around, a few more vets come around, they get a third string, and maybe they can be borderline championships team. I don't know. I don't see it in the near future, that's for sure. But I really want to see it for Booker because I really want to appreciate him. I really want to, I don't know, just look at him for the star that he is and not this guy that's sort of wasting away and away in that weird Phoenix team that just never put it together. It's about him now. And the last thing I will say on this, the Anthony Edwards / best shooting guard in the league conversation. It used to be about Devin Booker. It did. But nobody says that now. It's all, hey, it's Anthony Edwards' league. It's his. He's the number one spot in the shooting guard position, and he's got that locked up. Nobody really thinks about Devin Booker. I don't think. And there's probably a good reason. Like, maybe look at the competitive side. Maybe look at the win-loss column, the playoff success, the upside, all that stuff. You have legit argument. But I'd love to see this year, if Devin Booker had like a fully healthy season with him being the number one guy in Phoenix once again, and he just flourishes. That would be awesome to me. Because you just like stories like that. Like, to me, he almost has every right to want to leave Phoenix. He's been there for 10 years. Well, at the end of this season, he probably will. I think that's, if my math is mathing, that's great. You get to a point where he's 28 years old. Now, you would not blame the guy for wanting out, but he's stuck it out for 10 years, even amongst all the losses. I read out the records earlier on, all the losses, early years, and the schmozzle that was Kevin Durant and all that sort of coming and not finding. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, they had some moments, but health ultimately dictated how they went, and they just didn't put it together. So what's Devin Booker going to be next season? That's what I really want to find out. But I really want to kind of watch more of him and appreciate him, because before you know it, he might be one of those guys that, like, I don't know, he's just like 34, 35, 36, and you're like, hey, this guy was awesome like 6 years ago. I should have paid more attention to him. So that I will. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. My whole aim here is to build a community of people that have discussions in basketball. And that sounds super simple, but that's what I want. So a big part of that is you getting involved. So it's cliche to say on a podcast and a YouTube setting, but drop a comment, share it with a friend. Say, hey, what do you think of this? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you have an alternative opinion? Literally just do that, because I want discussion. Thanks again.